when Welchie was interviewing you, you kind of briefly mentioned, your style of racing. I think he was talking to you about Josh Amberger. How would you define your style of racing here in Kona?
Well, here in Kona, it's very different to how I like to see myself racing. I love taking a race by the horns, which is something that I haven't achieved here yet. And therefore looked at what I could do different, how I could come in and really, take this race as I like to.
Okay, so you won last year, but you talked about some of the really hard mental points that you had. What do you do going into Kona to make sure that you're mentally prepared for those tough moments?
Honestly, the biggest thing I think is to be mentally fresh. Like if you're stressed and under tension and all these kind of things, and of course it comes in, this is the one race we're judged on all year. You have a good or a bad season because you have a good or a bad Kona. And, it's something where it's hard to find that balance between the pressure and really getting the most out of yourself, but also just keeping cool and just, actually enjoying the beauty of what's Hawaii.
So this would be your third straight win, obviously. How do you keep the perspective that really it's just one day, one race, when there's kind of a lot of hype around the bigger picture?
Yeah, honestly, every time I look at the bigger picture, or have looked at the bigger picture in the past, it hasn't really worked for me, and that's just because the fact is, it's Saturday, October the 14th. It's one race, one shot, and anything else I think is hindering. And I think I've been around the block a few times now. I'm 36 years old. I kind of know how my mind works, and that's what makes me good. I think is that I can just focus on the essentials.
I've noticed that you really kind of pick and choose, and you have a lot of other athletes that you compete with a lot, train with you. Why do you make that decision?
You got to keep it fun. Like, it's a hard sport, and I've been doing this now professionally for 17 years, coming through the ranks and starting the very, very basics. And eventually, it's swim, bike, run, which is beautiful, but day in, day out, it's also very hard. And having the challenge, I think, is just something that keeps a perspective, that you can still get more out of yourself, that you're not done, that you're not, you just don't become stale. And that's definitely, what the guys around me show me every day is that, when I do too many of these media commitments and do races somewhere across the globe, when they just do a local race and come home and get my ass handed to me, it's still not fun. So it motivates me hugely.
So there's been the men's race especially has kind of changed over the years to where it's really a lot of tactics out there. It's not just the fastest that you can swim, bike, and run necessarily. Do you prepare for those mentally and figure, ahead of time, play out various scenarios in your head?
I try not to, because I really enjoy just the fastest swim, bike, and run race you can have, and that's really what I aim for in all of my races. I just haven't been able to show it here. And I will continue to aim for it, and see how we go. Of course, here everybody brings their A game, and the depth in the sport is definitely increasing. The sport's growing on every level, and the same thing on the pro level. Whereas I think the very, very front end of the sport hasn't moved much. There's just more of the guys.